Well, welcome to another Cutting Edge Show. This program is being brought to you in part by the School of Public Health at the University of Maryland. I'm Omar Neal, one of your hosts. I'm the former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, as well as the host of the You Got the Power radio talk show. You have just landed on the cutting edge, where we discuss all things health and wellness, COVID-19 and beyond. Well, we got a great show for you today. I mean, an excellent show. This show is going to focus on the voting process. And this is why we vote, understanding the power of advocacy and voter engagement through the prism of young leaders. We got a lineup that's out of this world. We have the leader of the House of the minority leader of the House of Representatives for the state of Alabama, Representative Anthony Daniels. And we have the program director at the Southern Youth Development Institute, Reverend Courtney Meadows. And we have the partnership director at the Democracy Healthy People with Nora Gumenow. Got it. And we have our very own Mike Dynamite Brown, barber, manager of the shop, spa, and licensed community health worker, all right here to discuss this very, very important subject. Well, I can't do this without the person I've been doing it with for going on 2.5 years, maybe approaching 3 years. We've been working on this show and in its multiple iterations. It's none other than Dr. Stephen B. Thomas. We call him Dr. T amongst these parts. He's a professor of the University of Maryland School of Public Health and director of the Maryland Center for Health Equity. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming a brother from another mother, my friend, Dr. Stephen B. Thomas. Hey, Dr. T, how you doing, man?
Hey, Mayor, it's always good to see you. And, hearts go out to the people out there who've been impacted by the hurricane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been covering on the news and even those in the outer bands. I mean, we had 3 days of rain here, 3 days. But you know what happened today? The sunshine came out. There's sunshine after the rain. All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and to what extent COVID is that cloud, there's a silver lining there too. And that's what this show's been all about from its very beginning, the silver linings of the pandemic that we need to really support and move forward.
Absolutely. There's a blessing and a lesson in everything. Right. And so, we're going to have that. Dr. T, I was thinking about this notion of voting and, voting in Alabama is, very connected, right? Selma, March,
there you go. That's
the Edmund Pettus Bridge, right?
Yeah.
Even in the Supreme Court now, Alabama's in the Supreme Court talking about racial gerrymandering. Well, I don't know if you know this, but the gerrymandering Supreme Court decision was Gomillion versus Lightfoot, which came out of Tuskegee, which made racial gerrymandering unconstitutional, right? So we're back in Alabama. We got Alabama representatives here to have this conversation about voting. No better place to talk about voting than talking about it through Alabama. But the point that I was making as I was laying the groundwork for this conversation is that voting is so important because it determines who you entrust the power of the people to, right?
That's right.
And power is the ability to supply or withdraw needed resources.
Okay.
And so when you vote, you literally vote for yourself vicariously through others to get your needs met and to improve the quality of your life, right? That's what it's all about. And so we all have a responsibility to engage in this process, because if we don't, then we don't have a democracy. Democracy is a government of, for, and by the people. And that's why it's so important to get people to understand and to associate their self-interest with the voting process. That's why we're here today, man.
Let me just say to you before we get into the show, hats off I salute you. You went out into the battlegrounds of the politics, elected office. You ran for office. You were mayor of the city of Tuskegee. Not easy. None of that's easy. Tough decisions. And
Yeah.
so we want more to be inspired to be involved in that civic engagement and take the risk and the opportunity of running for office. It may be the library board. You never know. You just got to get started somewhere.
Well, it needs to be a calling. I think that, it's almost like when we're going to talk with Reverend Meadows today, but, it's got to be a calling. You shouldn't just do something. It should be purposeful, right? You're not doing it for yourself or self-aggrandizement, but to be of service and for the greater good. And I think that's what this all should be about. All right, man. We you and I can talk forever. We bring up the people who help us make this thing happen.
There you
This
go.
is the team behind the scene for the
Without,
cutting edge.
without them, we'd be talking just to ourselves.
That's what I'm talking about. We got our technical director, Meg Jordan, who leads up our team. She is assisted by Maggie Daly. Soraya Khan, a social media and communications guru, and of course the sound designer, Elijah Pugh Jr. And these individuals are the individuals that are behind the scene making what you see come to life. And so we are so appreciative. And we do this every time because we want you to know that it's not just Dr. T and me. It's all of us that make this thing work. It's teamwork that makes the dream work. Right?
There you go.
Right. And that's what's important. All right, let me let you know how you can engage us. You can catch us on all of the social media networks, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and be a part of it, because this is an ongoing love affair with each other. This is when we come together and have real, authentic conversations.
That's right.
And it's so important that you engage in that. You will never be bored when you are with the cutting edge.
There
right?
you go.
Right? Don't forget that you can subscribe to our newsletter as well, where you can get updates of what we're doing here at the cutting edge. You can also get real useful information about what you can do to protect yourself from COVID, also to understand public health more in depthly.
Right.
Which is the key to this is we have placed the public health in the forefront, in the spotlight, and many people didn't know much about it. So we have a learning curve here. So we're trying to accelerate that by giving people information about public health, about COVID-19, and all things wellness and health and wellness.
That's right.
Okay, right. So that's what we're doing. Well, Dr. T, we got to get to our people, man. We got a great lineup of people. Let's bring my representative on up.
Okay.
He leads the minority, which is the Democratic Party, basically, that's in the state legislature.
Okay.
In the state of Alabama. He's Representative Anthony Daniels. He's been with us before, but let me say something about this, brother. When you look at leadership and you look at what you want to espouse to and what you want your people to look like, act like, and behave like, it's Representative Anthony Daniels. He is a role model. In fact, he's traveling now with his family. All right. He's taking out time because it's important to put family first, right? And because more is caught than is taught. People learn best by precept and example. So when you put family first, then I know if you put your family first, then you're going to consider my family.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring on a family member, Representative Anthony Daniels.
All right. Welcome to the cutting edge, Representative. We snap you in. We snap you in. That's how we bring you in.
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mayor and Dr. T. I certainly appreciate you guys for having me again, and certainly appreciate all that you do to continue to keep communities informed all across the country. And so it certainly means a lot to me, and certainly following your careers. You guys have done a lot of the things that I'm trying to get to. But it was because of individuals like you that I'm able to be where I am and able to have the opportunity to be able to follow great role models and individuals that have paved the way and that have fought the fight before, and just been give me an opportunity to be able to have a role in the process.
One of the things I wanted to talk about before we move on to introduce our other guests was this notion in this space of hyper partisanship, right? How do we get to, Representative, this notion of the common good? Is that a reality, or is that naivete on my part?
Well, I think circumstances bring about some of that reality in doses. I think that from a policy standpoint, being in the minority, we've not necessarily had access to think tanks and other organizations that provide us with the appropriate or policy to help develop our communities long term. Oftentimes, we focus so much of our attention on the one offs, but we've not addressed the systemic problems that have existed for a long time, even under Democratic control within the state of Alabama. And so I'm very fortunate to have individuals supporting our caucus and supporting our efforts that are policy wonks, individuals that feed us policy and that helps us understand how to shape policy and how to address it so that there does become systemic change. Now, I will say this. So, to my surprise, post George Floyd, there was, and many of you probably read about this, I had meetings for several months privately with Republicans, baking the cake on bills such as access to capital, bills that separate communities of color by ethnic as opposed to the terminology minority owned businesses. We've separated that to ethnic minority, and in some instances, prevailing ethnic minority, which is African American in the state of Alabama. And so we're beginning to address some of the economic gaps that have existed for generations within our community, and now providing opportunities for people that look like us to be able to have access to capital and not have those barriers, but also have opportunities at state contracts, whereas they've been pushed out a lot of times. And so we're turning the tide a little bit, but it's all through policy. And so that was a policy decision. It wasn't an executive decision that say, hey, we're going to do this for your community. And my model has always been, don't tell me about it. I'd like to see it. Let's reduce it to being in writing. And so that if something happened to me tomorrow, the conversation you and I had, it doesn't exist anymore, right? You're not allowed, you're not obligated to that. Right. But if it's in policy, and if it's in the policy from a policy standpoint, it lives beyond me. And so that's kind of the way we're approaching policy these days.
I was always told that if you don't put it in writing, it never happened. Go ahead, Dr. T.
Well, I just want to thank the representative as I was reading over your bio and noticed that you spent time as an elementary school teacher. I consider the elementary school teachers the master teachers, and that you were the first African-American elected president at the National Education Association in DC. Those are pivotal organizations that shape how we think about voting, how we think about our civic life. What's a lesson from the kindergartners that you can tell us right now that we adults now need to know?
Well, I would tell you that teaching third grade has prepared me for the legislature because
well, you dealing with third graders. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so what I would say is, it forces you to try to understand what you can't understand.
Okay.
Understanding individuals that have never necessarily had any engagement from a person, whether it's work experience or any real interaction with a person of color before. And just sitting down and really removing all the barriers and of the rhetoric that exists within the parties and the hyperpartisanship that exists, but digging deep into the real conversations about why these particular policies impact my community negatively. And so comparing that to third grade or kindergarten, It is trying to educate and develop the mindset of those individuals that have no understanding or awareness of to what I've gone through or my grandparents have gone through, but removing those barriers in the rhetoric so that we can get down to those conversations. And that's what we were able to do. Hopefully we'll continue that. But I would tell you, post George Floyd, we were able to sit down for several months,
Okay.
6 months at least, privately, where no one knew we were meeting.
Okay.
And we baked the cake, and then my responsibility was to go back and tell it to my caucus, and their responsibility was to go back and tell it to their caucus. And every idea that we put on paper was brought into legislation and passed and signed by the governor during that next legislative session.
Come
every
on,
piece.
This is how we applaud.
Absolutely. We got to figure out a way to replicate that, Representative
Absolutely.
Daniels, right? Because, you know, I find that when people are out of the spotlight and they're not trying to get in corners, then they are more reasonable when it comes to that. That's why people negotiate behind doors so that they can come out with a unified front. And you may differ, right? But you can disagree without being disagreeable, right? And then come to some consensus as to what the best interests of your, not only your constituency, but the whole of Alabama or Maryland or wherever it is, right? We can do that. There is a way to do this, and I think we need to get back to that place. I don't know if we're there. I don't want to suggest that we are, but I would like to see more of that take place, Representative Daniels. Man, it's so good to have you with us. Let's bring up Reverend Courtney Meadows. Courtney Meadows, man, like, you know, he's the program director at the Southern Youth Development Institute. He's also a powerful young man. You know, sometimes when you think about Montgomery has really given birth to, in not necessarily all, you know, literally giving birth to, but they have given a foundation for some great people. Martin Luther King was a pastor in Montgomery. Well, this young man is a reverend in Montgomery, Alabama. I met him many years ago, and I knew when I met him that he was somebody special. I mean, it's that same kind of feeling when you meet Martin Luther King, the people who met Martin Luther King, you know it's something special about this person. He's got that same kind of it factor. You know, and he has been a leader, not only among the older people in the Montgomery area, but a staunch and profound leader among young people. He's very well respected among them, and he has a way of reaching them and putting it where the cows can get it. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my friend, Reverend Courtney Meadows.
All right, a snappy man, Representative.
Absolutely.
Snappy man. Come on now.
Hey, Mayor, it's a pleasure to be here with you and my new friend, Dr. T. We are inspired by your model of leadership, especially my generation of emerging leaders. We appreciate you for being a bold and courageous voice for our community and beyond. And you make us so very proud and inspired to carry the legacy, to continue the work.
Man, I'm so happy to have you. Words are inadequate for me to describe how important this moment is for me to have you join with us. You know, we want to talk about young people, because because all of you fall within some level of young leadership. And we know that Representative Daniels is old enough to know and young enough to go, right? so you right there in that middle where you know, and the same with you, Reverend Meadows, that you literally, because I have seen older people in your presence and the way they respect you. You have earned that from them. Tell me about how do we get people to to want to follow us. When you talk about leadership, leadership is something, it's a skill set. I don't know whether or not it's born or can be learned, but it's a skill set when you get people to want to follow you. How does that happen? Because I've seen that with you.
I think a person must first and foremost connect with their purpose and be driven by it. One must connect with their creator, and from that connection with their creator, use that purpose, use those gifts and those talents to make a difference in the lives of others in their community. That's how we are informed by our faith, and we live it out in practical ways beyond the four walls of the church. And I think starting in ministry at the age of 6, I gave my first sermon, started pastoring in the Black Belt, Whitehall, Alabama at the age of 18, with board members who are old enough to be my grandparents, and then moving on to Hutchinson in Montgomery, Alabama. I think the key is to understand the connectedness of every generation. And so sometimes where we veer off is that we feel that my youthfulness, my strength in what I would consider the prime of my life would negate the need for me to listen to someone else who is in a different season. So I've always taken the approach of listening and learning from the seasoned saints, the seasoned leaders, those who are tried and true. And I think once people know that you care, they will listen. Once people know that you are following your purpose and have a heart for the betterment of not only them, but of their communities, they will listen. And that has been my experience. And that is what has helped me to learn through trial and error in ministry and community work.
Wow.
Mayor,
yeah.
You told me about Reverend Meadows, and you are absolutely right.
Absolutely, man. I'm telling you.
And as I was reading your bio, I noticed that you were a chaplain and faith coach at the Alabama State football team. And I asked a representative what the lesson is from the kindergartners. Take us into the huddle, take us into the halftime, take us into the inspiration you have to give the team. What's that message for the young people today when it comes to our challenges of civic engagement and keeping our democracy healthy?
I think the prevalent messages in those huddles, as I can recall, is number one, the importance of teamwork. There's no I in team. Everybody plays a specific role. And therefore, you have to condition your mind, train your mind to move beyond simply what you bring to the team on the field. But you must support, whether you're on the field or cheering others on from the sidelines. And I think the second thing that I'm always having to push is the importance of faith in managing the pressure of the moment.
Okay.
When we listen to when we look at the pressure of those moments, I've got 4 quarters, and these plays determine the trajectory of my life. And I have people who have never been on this field before that believe that they can be coach and player. And I have to keep my head to remain steady in the wins and losses, not only on the field, but in life. And those have been the prevailing messages to the players at Alabama State and beyond.
Alabama State is having their homecoming this weekend. They're playing Jackson State University. And so we wish them all the luck in the world in terms of their endeavor on Saturday. So thank you, Reverend Meadows, man. We're going to have a conversation, but I wanted to introduce you all. And let me say in advance, Representative Daniels is going to have to leave us a little early. So I may front end a lot of my conversation with him because of that. But we want to thank him. We never asked Representative Daniels to come, and he did not try to accommodate us. We are so appreciative for that. Let's bring on Nora Gumenow, who is my new friend. She, you know, I read about her. She's the partnership director at the Healthy Democracy, Healthy People, and I read that she's been an advocate all of her career. That's basically what she is. She's an advocate, and I realized, you know, Dr. T, that it has to be something in her life experience that caused for her to want to be a champion for someone else. It's not just about me. It's what can I use? What can I leverage? What kind of power do I have? What kind of gifts do I have that can be leveraged for the benefit of the greater good? Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my new friend, Nora Gumenow.
All right, let's snap her up on the front stage.
Absolutely.
Welcome, Nora.
Good. Hey, how are you doing?
Hi, thank you all for having me. I'm just very excited to be here.
You know, Mayor, I met Nora in the Hollywood squares. I call this the silver lining of the pandemic because there are so many now webcasts and Zoom town halls, and our people are now able to consume that in ways that all this was here before, but now they're recognizing there's a message for them. And I met Nora in a Hollywood Square on a big national program she was on. And I said, you know what? I'm actually gonna reach out and do an email and see if they'll respond. And you are here. I can't thank you enough. I looked at your background, your work with youth and voting, the fact that you're working on your doctorate right now to look at voting and health.
Give us some snaps, man.
Wow,
That's
powerful.
Absolutely, that's powerful.
Coming next.
Absolutely.
So what? Tell us something that's not in your bio that drives your passion for this work.
Yeah, I think there are two big factors that drive my passion for this work, and both of them are rooted in my upbringing and my faith. So primarily, you know, I'm a daughter of a union worker. My stepdad is when I was a kid, he worked for the nurses union, and he brought me out to march on picket lines, join strike lines, to knock on doors for candidates. And the first time I went door knocking, I actually told the candidate for Oregon's governor at the time that I was only there for the donuts, and I haven't been able to live
Well,
that
you've
down.
been honest, so you were complete.
I think I've come quite a far way from there, but I think that really drives me, is that, you know, as a young person, I had a lot of investment in me, showing me how to build power, what power really looks like, and how to make difference in my community. And then the faith piece of that is I am a Reconstructionist Jewish person, and I really lean into the teaching of Tikkun Olam, which means repair the world. And I always reflect back on that and think, what am I doing to align myself towards justice, to speak truth to power, and really to bring more justice to everyone kind of in my community, because I believe that when we have better equity, all people are better off, not just the people that, you know, we fight for, who are the most impacted. Everyone is better off.
Tell us about your organization, because it seems very, very interesting in its name in and of itself. So tell us a little bit about that and how that interface with the political process.
Yeah, so Healthy Democracy, Healthy People is a coalition of 11 membership-driven, localized public health organizations, and we represent, I think, over 300,000 public health professionals in our coalition, working to align the public health community with the efforts to make an inclusive and representative democracy, because we know when democracy is healthy, people are healthy. And we were formed out of the COVID pandemic, and have really grown since then.
A silver lining from the pandemic.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful having you with us, man. This is just an honor for us to have you hang out with us. So welcome again. And this is not your last time, Nora. I want you to know that. You know, this you're part of the family now.
Great.
So I understand that. Let's bring up a family member. This is truly a brother from another mother. He's been with us from the beginning.
There you go.
He's really a star. They've done so many documentaries and newspaper articles and stories on him. He's in what we call when hanging out with Mike Dynamite Brown. That's like picking in high cotton. That's what we say down here. This brother got it going on. He is a master barber, over 30 years barbering. He's a manager of the shop spa and is licensed. He not only he's a licensed community health worker.
There you
right?
go.
So he has really focused on trying to sustain the community by sustaining health, right? And that's so critically important because a healthy community is a wealthy community.
There you
because
go.
health is your wealth, right? When you lose your health, it doesn't matter about money. So he understands what that means, and he's able to communicate with people at all levels. And that's why it's so important that we bring people like Mike to the table, because he's there where the rubber hits the road, where people are talking, not trying to be political or any of that. They're talking authentic talk, what they honestly believe. That's what he hears each and every day. And he's moderating that conversation in his shop. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my dear friend, Mike Dynamite Brown.
Thank you, man, Neil. Thank you, man, Neil. Thank you, everybody.
Let's snap him up, snap him up, snap him up.
How you doing, man? Love you, fella.
I'm doing well. Love you as well. How's everyone?
Good. You know, 4 weeks out, man. And and I know a lot of people are they're trying to deal with their own personal issues, financial, relationship, health issues. They got a lot of issues. And sometimes voting for those people or many people is not at the front burner in what their life's priorities are. What are you seeing and hearing in at the shop?
Well, I have a diverse group of clients that I cut, but mainly the ones that you see every day are your neighborhood patrons and stuff, and just really trying to talk to them about even voting. It's like telling them to asking them to participate in Japanese algebra or something like that. I mean, they have no clue about who's running, why they should vote, how important it is. And it's just like you're speaking another language to some of them. The people who get it, they get it, and they're voting, and they're investigating the people who's running to see what their politics are, to see if it fits, if they deserve to vote. But it's so many of us that are just clueless to the voting process and how important it is, and trying to fit the shape of their container to explain it to them how important it is where, like, I have to become water so they can understand. And fitting the shape of their container is like very difficult when they have no knowledge of anything, but we really need them to get involved with the vote. So a panel like this with such distinguished guests here, I'm definitely looking for ways that I can communicate to them, to let them know the importance of voting is very important. And a lot of them have just missed it. And it's sad when you try to talk to them and communicate with them about it, and they're like, man, well, whatever. I don't care who does what. Just leave me alone. Let me make my money. Leave me alone. So, that's their mentality. And, just trying to get them to see what's going on. You got to get in the real world. You got to get in the game. We need you. And I think a lot of them, they don't feel like their vote is needed. So trying to relate to them how important it is a great challenge, but I'm up for the job.
Absolutely. And we know you are.
Indeed, indeed.
Representative Daniels, there's a saying that I always use is that you make your friends before you need them, right? Right. It's so important. And you being a representative, you know that you have to have an ongoing relationship with the people so that when you come to them, they know you, right? And we also recognize, Reverend Meadows, that you make that a best indicator of what a person will do is what a person has done, right? So you don't have to talk about what I will do. Show me what you've done. I'm a fruit inspector, man. A tree is known by the fruit it bears. I'm just a fruit inspector. Please tell me what you've done, and then I can tell you what you gonna do, basically. Reverend, excuse me, I'm calling you Reverend now. Rep Daniels. Am I hyperbolic or is that true? Make your friends before you need them. Be out there with the people. Let them know who you are. Let them know what you stand for. Listen to them. Isn't that a part of the process?
It is a part of the process, and as Brother Brown mentioned, it is sometimes it's very tough to have those conversations. And so what I've found is when I'm not on the ballot, a lot of those folks take cycles off. And so what I've done consciously, I've consciously focused effort on voter education. I took the time during the pandemic. One of the things that I think many of the legislators across the country probably have been engaged with is the unemployment situation. Mm-hmm. There was a high unemployment situation during the pandemic. And so I took the time to answer and respond to every call, whether regardless of where in the state it was, to expedite the process of those individuals getting in line and in the front of the line to receive those employment benefits. And so what that did was it yielded a lot of political capital for me among individuals that I would consider are not frequent voters. Mm-hmm. The people that he's talking about that's in the barbershop, that's in the beauty salons, that's talking about their votes not counting. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that we've done here, Mayor Dr. T, and did in Madison County, we pulled together a coalition, fraternities, sororities, and a lot of civic organizations. And we pulled the list of all African Americans that do not vote in every election. They're called infrequent voters or rare and sporadic voters. Mm-hmm. And what we've done is, because we have so many African Americans running for the legislature and other offices, we put a poster of every African American that's on the ballot. And at the top it said, we need you on November 8th. We put that in the barbershops and the beauty salons. So we didn't start putting it in yesterday. We put it in a month ago, right? And so what it started to do is, we know that you're good for about 4 more haircuts before the election. And so it's all about the repetitive.
So you calculate Representative Daniels.
Absolutely. It's the competitiveness. Then you engage the DJs, right?
All right.
Engage the DJs, because one of the things that we miss that as a people is that if you look at athletics and entertainment, all of these folks that are projected to the young into our community are young. And so until we start getting down to the level where we're communicating with people and they see people that look like them, and the messengers are people that are closer to their age.
Okay.
Right. And then you're able to make that connection, because it becomes more of a populist thing. Okay. And so the goal is to get them to voting frequently so that it becomes a part of their DNA every year. Mm-hmm. And then sharing data with them. One of the numbers that I share with them is there are 40,000 African Americans that's registered to vote in Madison County that don't vote in every election. There's 548,000 throughout the entire state of Alabama. If we focus only on the people that don't vote in every election, you will transform the way the legislature looks.
Right.
It'll be more reflective of Alabama than more reflective of Bonanza. Right. So we got to make certain that we're, as you mentioned, we're lowering the hay for the cows to eat. Right.
Right.
And so those are some of the things that and then to your point, being visible. So I go to but I had to take my nutritionist with me. I go to a soul food restaurant at least 2 or 3 times a week when I'm in the district. So my nutritionist told me what I can and cannot eat on that menu. But when you go in those places, you have to be like the people that you're wanting to represent.
Okay, all
so
right.
We've always been taught, Mayor, growing up, and Dr. T, we gotta wear the uniform.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a time for suits and dressing and wearing the uniform. But when you're dealing with the common person that you're trying to convince that you're like them, you gotta make certain that you're lowering and dressing like a common person.
Humility.
And then
Humility.
You're talking to them about issues, and you're not talking to them about whatever the latest and greatest Democratic platform is. When you're talking about prison reform, you got to have a conversation about what that actually means.
Right.
Because we're using these terminologies where we're talking above people instead of talking to them. And then the other thing is, I recruited barbers to sit on the Democratic Executive Committee. Why?
Oh, wow.
Because they have a better connection to the average person. And I also use them to help develop the messaging.
All right.
So as a party in general, I don't look at the National Democratic Platform because that platform don't speak to Pookie, Ray Ray, and Keisha. Okay? So we got to start having real conversations with real people, and our policies have to reflect those people that we're trying to represent instead of those individuals that are already at a upper middle class level. Now, I hadn't always been in the middle class. I grew up in Union Springs, Alabama, okay, raised by my grandparents, who they didn't have a vehicle. So we were dependent on the rolling store to go around. So I was raised similar to your grandparents, Mayor.
Right.
So when I talk about that, it helps me relate to even those individuals that are older. The last point I'll make, the individuals that I convened, we are meeting this Sunday again at a local church. We don't tell them who to vote for. We educate them about the impact of the positions that are on the ballot.
Right.
And the constitutional amendment. You know, we have something that talks about removing racist language from the Alabama Constitution. So slavery is on the ballot.
Wow.
Then you have individuals that look like you running, but defining what those roles are. What is a school board member? What impact does a school board member have on your child's education? What impact does a legislator, a House member, and a Senate member have on day-to-day laws that's you're governed by? What does a sheriff have to do with your community? It's over the jails and the conditions of the jails. What does a judge have to do with you? Well, those are the folks that many of our people are before that are getting the book thrown at them.
Right.
Until you change the faces of the positions and the people in those positions, now everybody look like you ain't like you.
Right.
And so that's why it's important to have a conversation about the policies that they're running on. Right? And if they disappear in the next election, we make them disappear. That's simple as that. And so I think that one of the things that we've done is we're so excited about, we're going to turn out the vote. Every organization said we're going to turn out the vote. Well, you're not turning out the vote if you're not adding new people. I'm not going to go and knock on Mayor Neal's door or Dr. T's door because they're going to vote every time the polls open.
That's right.
Let's go knock on the doors of our brothers and sisters that are not going to vote in every election. They may have voted one in the last 4 elections or 2 in the last 4 elections.
Right.
Until you spend your money on those people, you're going to be in the same position that you're in today, tomorrow.
Wow.
Man, isn't that incredible? Well, Representative Anthony Daniels, man, thank you so much. I do know that you got to catch a plane.
He wants to stay with us, man.
I'm cognizant of that, right?
He wants to,
because I want him back in Alabama. See, you see what I'm saying? He got work to do when he gets back here.
He just gave us a master class. Before you leave, Representative, I got to throw the ball to Nora. You just heard like a master class. You're out there on the front lines with young people, getting them engaged. What did you think about that set of best practices that Representative just laid down?
Oh, I agree 1,010%. I always say that we have a self-fulfilling prophecy in our feedback loop with campaign communications, right? We talk to reliable voters who we know are going to turn out, and we try to convince them who to vote for and make sure that they turn out on election day, even though we already know they're going to turn out on election day, because the algorithm I pulled my list of voters from are reliable voters, and they voted in every election in my record book. And so when we talk to young people and we empower them to have opinions and to cast their ballots and make sure that they know how to be registered, that they know where their polling locations are, that they know what types of documents they have to bring with them, we can see those returns tenfold for the rest of their lives.
Wow.
And so we have to be investing in voters that don't have that track record in order to build an electorate that looks a lot more like this country.
Wonderful.
Oh, wow. That's
Wonderful.
powerful. Well, Representative, I think we're right at your time. Let me say this, man. Thank you so much. Safe travels to you. Godspeed to you and the family. Love to the family from the Cutting Edge as well. And when you get back, let's talk again, because we need to really expound on what you've talked about. And so I want to have a conversation with you. So look for a phone call from me sooner than that. Okay.
Well, thank you guys, and certainly thank all of you guys for participating. And let's not forget about the goal, and continue to stay the course and don't give up on it, because there are people that are depending on us. We were depending on folks that have come before us, and there are people that are behind us that are depending on us to show them the way. So thank y'all for the opportunity. I look forward to visiting with you again. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very good. Okay.
Reverend Meadows, let me tell you something, man. Every movement, and I'm not a biblical scholar, but I think if you go back biblically, have been a youth movement.
Come on now. Come on.
You see what I'm saying? And so it's, if we are going to, Nora was talking about, if we're going to make this country look like this country, if we're going to make it a more inclusive, a pluralistic society, then we got to engage young people. So now, it's not always, I think Mike may have said, it's not always the message, it's the messenger.
There you go.
Right. So how do you motivate, stimulate, resuscitate the interest and spirit of young people in the voting process?
I think just as you heard Nora share, it is so important to make those real-time connections, even as Representative Daniel shared. When you connect with people with the issues that matter to them, and as we talk with middle school, high school, even students on college campuses across this state, there are clearly things that matter to them, but we have to listen, give them voice, and for them to understand in the spirit of movements that preceded them. Without faith, without women, without children, none of the advancements would have been attained that we are beneficiaries of. And so we in real time share with them the political process by, first of all, identifying the issues that they are concerned with, whether it's trash, whether it's the food that they eat in their schools, whether it's the leaders that are in their schools, the locations of their schools, the violence that they're experiencing in their communities, and showing them the entities that affect change around those issues. When we look at the civil rights movement, and the Southern Youth Leadership Development Institute was founded by Miss Doris Crenshaw, who at the age of 12 served on the youth council of the NAACP, led by Mrs. Rosa Parks. She decided to use her professional experiences, her experiences growing up in the movement that was led by college students and youth throughout the state of Alabama, to inspire the next generation. without her, I would have been stuck behind a pulpit, I believe, because when I met her similarly at the age of 12, it expanded my consciousness that I was not just to be a preacher, but the ministry extended beyond the walls. And informed faith causes me to put on my shoes, tie up the laces, and be about the business of these faith principles that are shared across so many religions. And so what we do again is we connect youth with their faith, we connect them with previous movements, we connect them with the issues that they are concerned with in their community, no issue too small, and we show them how to get to those who can make a difference. And we do it one student at a time.
Wow, that's powerful. You know, Dynamite, today the president said that all federal drug possession convictions,
marijuana,
marijuana, let me be clear, not drug, marijuana, right? Can you use that message to the brothers to see how politics can influence even their interests as well? Is it, you know, what Reverend Meadows was talking about? You always have to present things from the interest of the person to whom you are talking to, not from your own interest, right? Right. And I think part of the problem is we go tell people what we want rather than asking them what they want, right? Right. And so is it a way to correlate actual policy stuff, things that have happened historically when they got that stimulus dollars? They need to know where that came from, right? Right? Is it any way you can take this information and couch it in a way that they can see their self-interest being served through their participation in the voting process?
That's a great question, man, Neil. Honestly, my answer has to be with that is that it's just like throwing your pearls to the swine, as the scriptures say. They're not really because he says it's legal now on a federal level, and they're going to not indict people who have these charges with marijuana. They don't care as long as they keep getting the marijuana. They was getting it before they legalized it. So
this ain't
like,
that it impacted them.
They affect me. I was still getting they were still getting their marijuana on. So you know, it doesn't really pertain to them. You know, it's going to have to be
what does pertain to them, Mike?
Just
think of a person in the chair.
Yeah.
Think of a person in the chair and what pertained to them. Even if you couldn't.
Dr. T, that's dependent on the client that I have. All of my clients aren't on that level. I mean, some people, they're like regular people that work and go home and have a care about what's going on in their world. And then the other half of them don't. As long as they can wake up and make them some quick money and feed themselves or take care of their business, they don't have a care for anything. And it's so hard to penetrate that thinking because they're trapped in their own world until something disastrous happens, like the police kicking their door or something happens. Something tragic happens, you know, God lets something happen to them that really wakes them up. And it has to happen to everyone individually before they get that, wow, the epiphany. Like I'm out here, I need to be doing this and that. It takes them to get hit in the head with a sledgehammer. To wake up out of this trance that they're in. And if you try to talk to them at a level, they're like, I don't want it, man, miss me with that. Mike, cut my head. I don't want to talk about that. I ain't talking about that, Mike. I don't have no input on that. As long as I'm getting my money, I don't care. You know, and when you're dealing with that type of people, you know, you don't ever want to like write people off. But I'm just going to be honest with you. It's a hard thing to say. Some of these people, they can't be saved. You can't reach them.
Let me ask this, Mike, because, you know, there's a thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it means technically that there are certain physiological needs that are basic needs.
Gotta
And
eat.
if those needs are not met, you cannot actualize to the next
Yeah,
level, like
that's right.
safety or
Clothes, food, and
love or
shelter.
belonging or esteem or self-actualization or any of that. You cannot. So if you are operating just on survival, Mike, right? Then these things may not matter to you because you do not correlate your survival with what people are doing. You're so cynical about it. You don't trust the people. You don't trust the system. The system has done nothing but suppress you. Why you want to participate in it at any juncture?
Oh, you do understand. So you understand. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I understand.
that's exactly where the people are, and that's exactly where I am trying to convince them otherwise. But they're like, I've come up on. I mean, they don't really tell their story, but the way they live can tell their story. Coming up, their mother and father had trauma. Mom was on drugs. Dad wasn't there. Grandma can't control them. You know, I'm talking to a nation of people like these. I mean, who pay me for their haircut every week.
Right.
And it's a nation of them like that, you know, and how to articulate the importance of voting to them is like, as I reiterate once again, you know, it's like trying to teach them Japanese algebra.
But you know, Dynamite, as I'm listening to you and I'm listening to the representative who just departed, you're at that sacred space. They trust you because they're giving you all the things that when you put that cape on, they're in your hands and they're sharing their voice and their truth. And by you sharing that here with us, you're giving voice to their frustrations of not being able to connect this voting versus the quality of their life. And I'm looking at Nora down there, and Mike's telling you the challenge and the opportunity. The question is, are we bringing those things together in a systematic way? Representative said how he organized the barbers, got them on boards so they could bring these voices to other tables. Is that happening, or other examples of how we do this?
Yeah, wow. I think that's happening, and I think honestly how we create change in this country is through relational organizing. So through talking to the people that you know, who you trust about your shared or your self-interests, and what the root problems are in those self-interests. And so I think what Michael Brown is saying is really at the heart of the issue is that we really need to be talking about these issues on the long term. And it's not a short conversation that you have once. It's something that you have, you know, over months, over years. With my family members, I have, you know, siblings who don't believe that their vote matters. And I've been talking to them for 10 or so years about voting. And so I think that organizing is happening. I think that we know a lot of different ingredients for how to build power. We at Healthy Democracy, Healthy People employ 3 practices to build power. And that's through organizing narrative. So we do a lot of data and storytelling with research about how voting is related to public health, and how health is deeply connected to our access to democracy. And then we organize people and organizations, so our coalition of organizations, and then the people within those organizations, we're organizing them to make change at every level, from the organizational level with policy statements that represent, you know, the people in those organizations, all the way up to the national level, with some administrative changes to the way that we prioritize public health goals in this country. And then we also organize policy. So we organize policy. So we, you know, make those policy changes and use those people to help spread that change. And I think that's one mechanism of building power, but it all starts with conversations and having those one-on-one connections is really how we change the trajectory of this country. And I think people are starting to do that. I see a lot of youth organizing focused on relational organizing, focusing on, hey, text your 10 friends and tell them about the election, and have them text their 10 friends, and they'll text their 10 friends. And it's happening, but it's going to take some time. So I want us to recognize that organizing for power building to create lasting change is not something that happens in one election.
Yeah,
Very good.
that's shifting the paradigm, Nora. But I don't. It's obviously an ideal what you're saying. I don't know if that's happening fast enough, because as I see it, democracy is obviously in peril at this point. It's in jeopardy, right? And democracy is very young. If you really look at it from the vantage point of Black people, democracy is a little over 60 years old.
Can you believe that?
Right. Just a little over. So it's not an old, it's a little under 60 years, right?
That's right.
If you look at 65, the Voters' Rights Act of 65, right? When Black people were granted the opportunity generally to vote. There were Black who voted before, but generally speaking, right? So we have a very young, fragile democracy.
That's right.
And if people do not feel, if what Mike is saying is correct, and I know Mike is one honest brother, and that's what I love about him. He tell you exactly what he sees, right? And we need that kind of authentic, dialogue. What's happening on the ground in real time, right?
That's right.
So what we recognize is that when people do not feel that they count, then they don't count when it comes to voting.
There you go.
Right? So how are you going to tell me that I count when everything you've done to me is to show me I don't count? Now you want to count me? Count me for what? For you? Right? And that's the kind of attitude that people have. And until we shift that paradigm, not only in terms of getting people to want to participate, but to make sure we're getting the right people in office that will be responsive to the people, and they are not transactional, but transformational, right? That's very important as well. So we got a lot of work to do even in that. I want to do a couple of things. Let me bring up Dr. Ritter. I've not seen her. Sandra, you're on deck with the conversation. Dr. Ritter, you see, I'm excited about this. Dr. Ritter is OBGYN, gynecologist out of Maryland, the great state of Maryland. She's been with us since the beginning. She is a part of our family. I'm excited because this is now, we got 4 weeks away from an election, and we know that public policy as it relates to health and all kinds of things come from people who we elect, right? And so it's important to get people to understand that there's a direct correlation between their participation and their quality of life. And if we can't do that, then we missed the boat. All right. What say you? Yeah.
Let me just set the table just a moment for Dr. Ritter. Nora, remember when you said about organizing and getting organizations, coalitions? Well, that's what Dr. Ritter represents, bringing the State of Maryland Medical Society, MedChi, into this set of Hollywood squares with the barbers and stylists. And they've been clinical partners all along the way. And so the stage is set, Dr. Ritter. Physicians have power when it comes to things like advocacy. How might we get them leaning in the direction and giving voice to the person in Mike's chair?
Yeah, I mean, it was an eye opener to me when we just had a right overturned for women, and women fought for a long time to get the right to vote, and didn't get the right to vote till 1878. No, it was 1878 when they put the amendment in to vote, and then it didn't take it came 1919 or 1920 or something like that. So it's like it's a long journey to get the right to vote, and then to not vote after fighting, and all these people that have fought the fight for us, and then it takes a moment, like Mike said, or somebody said, it takes something to like wake you up. But one thing that I notice for women is that they will vote more when they see more women in the legislature, which is happening more. And I imagine that's the same, you know, with the representative. You see people that look like you, and you will tend to feel like your vote will count more. So that's been the struggle, you know, that I've seen, is getting the right people to vote for.
Right.
Because for so long, it's like, you don't want to vote because you don't like the people who are running, right?
Mhm.
So Angie's List and all these like women's groups out there that have been putting in the fight for the longest time, you know, this is where we have to put our efforts into, you know, knocking on the doors, but getting the support behind, the finances behind, because it takes a lot of money to run for a political, you know, position, you know, and that is a big obstacle that I see, is the finance laws around voting.
You're absolutely right, Dr. Ritter. And hopefully we're going to do something about that, because you cannot have only people who have wherewithal that are your leaders, right? We need to have people from the spectrum, across the whole spectrum. And so we have to do something about campaign financing. I absolutely agree with
Can I
you.
say something real quick? The politicians who are running, they're very visible around election time. And after election, we don't see them until the next election. That's not building trust. That's not helping the community want to stay engaged to vote, to see what's going on. You come and you're very passionate when you're speaking in our barbershop and speaking to the audience and passing out your flyers, vote for me. You're very passionate about your message. However, after the election, we don't see you anymore. So that needs to be addressed as well.
Right, no doubt about that. I'm sure Reverend Meadows, you've seen that happen where they come to church. They call them CMEs. They go to church Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter, right? And then I'm a CME. I go to church Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter, and then I go when I have to vote, when I'm looking for votes, right? So let's talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about that. Bring up Sandra Jenkins. Meg, you on deck for the Public Health Minute. Let me bring up Sandra, and then you up deck on deck.
Unmute
Andre, I know you there. I'm gonna get to you. Don't say nothing. Just be there. Okay, go ahead, Sandra. Sandra, you know, thank you for what you do. Right.
Unmute yourself, Sandra.
Public health worker, community public health worker. She is a salon owner.
There she goes.
Right outside of Philadelphia. We use Philadelphia, but you know, it's in the Philadelphia area.
Philly.
Right. And so, but what's your thoughts about this? You've been dealing with voting too. I mean, this is something that you've been advocating as well. What's your thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts is just really huge, but I'm going to zero in on Mike, because our wellness warrior right here will make an awesome candidate. And this is what our democracy is. The democracy is supposed to look like the people that are on this panel tonight. Mike deals with a plethora of people of all different ways of thinking about how they're going to survive in society. And you're also dealing with young people where we're constantly telling them what to do and how to run their lives, instead of actually working into their own space, bringing, the best of them out so that we could really know what the needs of young people are. And what that takes is an individual who really understands ground zero. And those are the individuals that I see that needs to be in legislature. If this is something in this industry, and as I always say, the barber shops, beauty salons, cosmetology industry, with this industry has, for some reason, is a lack thereof, not a very, very important piece in legislature and discussed. And for whatever reason that is, I don't know. But if it takes us as barbers and stylists, okay, to stand up and have a voice like Mike is doing today, and really speaking truth to power, you know, the truth hurts. It really hurts, because I would like to say to Mike, you know, I've been in an industry probably beyond longer years than you have. And I have never experienced some of the things that you just talked about right now. But we live in a big city. You know, I just so happen to end up and landed somewhere where I serve people that are in corporate America. However, I know what's going on in my society because I'm a Black woman. I know what's going on. And that's how I relate to my community. And, you know, that is, you know, the means of getting out into your community and wearing other hats. You know, I am not only a business owner and a hair stylist in a salon. I'm also a committee person for my community. I reach out into my community all the time to get to know who the people are. I let people see me look like this, the way I'm dressed now. I don't look like a stylist. I don't need to look like a stylist, because my skill, okay, is the gift that God has blessed me with, that when folks sit in my chair, they walk out looking like $1 million.
All right.
So that is my work right there. You know, I don't need to display that. However, as a committee person, you know, you're somewhat of that figure, and you're that voice behind your community. And you're that individual that you probably be doing volunteering services. So that really speaks a lot of truth to power as to person who you really are. So these are the things that I feel that having these discussions in your salon with your clientele, to treat it as if it's a community, you know, and that is the beginning. But you need us warriors to stand behind you and lift you up. Because
Mike for president. I mean, I just say he doesn't have to go much further. You know, just go on.
Alrighty.
Let's get a U-Haul. Let's get a U-Haul and go on the street, man. Piss the baby out.
That's right. That's right.
And it could be president of the Library Association.
Yes, indeed.
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Mayor,
thanks, Andrew. We have a lot of fun here. Did somebody want to say something?
Yes, if I may say, that was so powerful, Miss Sandra, because all of us have been gifted with influence with different groups of people, and we have to make those connections. I think about it with scripture. People, you know, they say, well, I don't understand scripture. Just like they say, I don't understand the political process, or it's not necessary anymore, or it's not effective anymore. We have to make those connections, meeting them where they are, showing them, okay, and you may think you're okay right now, but somebody close to you has been affected. You know of someone that is being affected by this, and taking that disillusionment with the political process, just as people are disillusioned with the faith, and helping them to understand, not just at the broad or national level, but we have to make connections to show the power of the local level, the city councils, the county commissioners.
There you go.
All of these smaller offices that many times we don't pay any attention to. And we have
library.
Them. Yes, we have to show them the victories that are happening in those smaller levels. And by showing them these smaller local connections, we can then awaken them to the possibilities of their impact in the political process. You don't have to wait for Mike to be president. Mike can be mayor. Mike can be on the school board.
That's right.
Mike can be in these, you know, a commissioner. And then leverage that influence and work his way up to president.
Mayor, can you
he's already the president of this board.
Mayor, can you believe it's 8:14?
Oh man, we got a Meg abbreviation, and we will come back with everything. But this it got out of hand. But I'm glad it did. And
Think
then
about
we're
it.
gonna bring. We're gonna let. We're gonna do that. We got to get a pulse, Dr. T.
Yep.
And just right after Meg does that, do a pulse. While we're getting the pulse, bring Andre up. Okay.
And Nora, all this fun around voting. Can you believe that, Nora?
I can absolutely believe it. It's my favorite topic. So
all right, go
All
ahead,
right, Meg. You're on.
You're up.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. So let's run the numbers. Right now, in the past 2 years, 96.3 million Americans have gotten COVID-19. 1,555,000 people have died from COVID-19. Only 225 million Americans are initially vaccinated. That's 67% of people who can. And 109 million people have gotten their first booster dose for COVID-19. That's about half of all people who could get them. Next, please, Maggie. Okay, so the COVID levels right now, we're trailing down. We are at the tailing end of wave 7, if you can believe. Only 3% of the country is in the high range where everybody should be wearing their masks. But 22% of the country is in the medium range, where people at high risk should have their masks on in enclosed spaces. And so actually this week for the Public Health Minute, I wanted to come back to something Ms. Sandra had actually asked me. Who is high risk? So next, please, Maggie. Okay, so to talk about who is at high risk, I want to start with what does COVID-19 stress in your body and what does it damage in your body? Your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, your brain. It can change how your blood clots. It can harm your liver and it can harm your nervous system. So if you have a disease where one of those organs is already stressed or it's already damaged in some way, COVID-19 is going to impact you more. And if you don't have those things, COVID can give you those things. So I'm going to run through some of the diseases to be aware of. Okay, any kind of heart disease, if you have any kind of diabetes, problems with your lungs, if you have tuberculosis, it's not on here, but influenza. If you've ever been a smoker. Again, heart conditions go under the lung because your heart and your lungs are really connected. Chronic lung disease. So we're talking asthma, COPD, any kind of lung disease. Next, please, Maggie. Kidneys, any kind of chronic kidney disease. Your brain, if you have dementia or Alzheimer's, it can accelerate those things in older folks. Mental health disorders, a variety of mental health diagnosis can make you at higher risk for COVID, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia. Like I said, COVID changed how your blood clots, and so it can put you at higher risk for strokes. If you've had strokes before, you can be at more risk. If you have sickle cell, this can be a problem as well. Next, please, Maggie. If you have any kind of disability related to your nervous system, so cerebral palsy, or if you've injured your spinal cord, any kind of chronic liver disease, any kind of substance abuse, if you have issues with your immune system, HIV, if you've had an organ transplant, because you've got to take medication for the rest of your life that suppresses your immune system when you've had an organ transplant. Next. Lots of different disabilities, lots of other conditions, cancer, cystic fibrosis, pregnancy, obesity, inactivity in physical education. So what I really wanted to talk to you all about, when we talk about high risk, next please, Maggie, it's age. So it's people 65 and up. Next, please. And that's 55.1 million adults in the US. Next, please. And all those medical conditions we just ran through, all those different diseases. Next, please. 41.4 million adults in the US. So when we talk about people who are at high risk for COVID, these are not other people. This is not a small group of people. This is a third of the US that is at high risk for COVID. And so when that number goes back to yellow, we put our masks back on. This is who we put our masks on for, these 92.6 million people in the US.
Wow.
Thanks. Absolutely.
And
That's
so
powerful.
many of those conditions were the underlying conditions, the health disparities concentrated in our community. This might help be part of that wake-up call, because everybody knows somebody with type 2 diabetes.
That's right. And Meg, you made a salient point when you said you're not just doing it for you.
That's
You're doing
right.
it for other people, because everybody knows someone who fall in one of those categories, right?
Mm.
And so we do it not for just us. Is there somewhere in the Bible you do it to the least of these, you do it also under me? Hey, Rev.
That's right, Mayor. That's right.
All right, let's
get that pulse
do
beat.
this. Let's do the heartbeat. Dr. T, tell them how they can do it.
Okay, real quick. I want you to think about a word that best reflects how you're feeling at this moment in the pandemic, and just go ahead and drop it in the chat. For those of you out there in social media land, you can use the Q&A box. And for the next 60 seconds, now put as many words as you can think of. One by one, just drop them in the chat, drop them in the Q&A box, and the team behind the scenes will build a cloud and they'll let us know when it's ready. And just keep the words coming. Don't worry about spelling. They'll clean all that up. You may see a word that influences you. And when we see the cloud, the bigger the word, the more people who felt that way. Just keep those words coming. Hey,
Absolutely.
Mayor, here we had a topic of voting that sometimes makes people's eyes glaze over. Do you know how fast this evening has gone because we've been so engaged?
Well, they always say time flies when you're having fun. So I mean, we can have engaging conversations, and they can be difficult conversations, but they're authentic and they're engaging.
Yes.
And everything is relevant, and you have to figure out how it applies to you. And regardless from the day you're born to you ride in the hearse, things ain't so bad that they couldn't be worse, right? So
you know what?
Poetic? Are we poetic?
I'm just letting you know. So if you don't vote, things can get worse.
There you go.
Right. And that's why we need to engage in the process. Andre, bring Andre up as we kind of navigate our
toward the end, as usual.
That's what they
let's snap him up. Let's snap him
up, right?
From Atlanta.
They say you say the best for last, Andre, but so what's with you, right?
What are you hearing, Andre?
I want to say a couple of things, but I want to get this out of the way first. I am so glad you asked Mike about that marijuana situation, and it didn't come across my desk. So, Mike, you did a great job. Thank you very much. The other thing is, when you're talking about getting to the people and about voting, about wellness, about the things that we're doing, cognitive mentality, hypertension, things like that. This is the best group. We have two people to thank. We have Dr. T and Omar Neal. And these guys, as we progress, are getting to more and more people, even though they don't want me to talk much, but they're getting more and more people.
Hey, man, I'm giving you all the time you want. You're taking your time away by talking about I'm not giving you time.
I'm giving you all the props that I think you guys need. I really do. And I was in school. I've been to school long ago, and Nora, I've only met one other person that when you look at her name, you try and figure out where the hell to put these G's. So, I'm just saying, I guess it's a thing with where she's from, but these G's on Nora, I didn't know how to do that when I was at North Illinois University. I said, how did we do that? So, and then just moving right along, guys.
Let's get to voting at some point. I wanted what's
that will be the point that I'm getting to next.
Yeah, okay. I knew you were going to eventually get there, but I just want to just speed you up a little bit.
Yeah.
Since we talk about time. Go ahead. No problem.
Yeah.
Keep those words coming. Keep those words coming.
Voting is a wonderful thing. I've been a mentor most of my adult life. Two of the things that I always prompt people to do is when they get old enough, I want them to vote. The next thing I want them to do, and this is for me just personally, I want them to go into business. And then education falls into there. But I came out. I only went to college for a couple of years, and I learned a couple of things. One, I needed to vote for somebody that represented some of the things that I was doing because I was in business. And the other thing was I wanted to have people do what I thought that I needed for them to do, and what I thought they needed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we had discussions about this. And I'm talking, I've developed a lot of years in doing this. So this is not something that I lightly talk about. It's things that I do, and it's things that I'm continuing to do. And on occasion, Dr. Ritter talks about my favorite person, the great enunciator. I think she knows what I'm talking about. She'll mention something about him, the amazing Dr. X on occasion. Mm-hmm. And so I'm loving this group all the time, more and more. And I'm appreciating everything that we're doing, and voting is a wonderful thing. And I just want you guys to know that even though I'm at the busiest airport in the world,
Atlanta Airport. Go on and tell him you got he has a shop in Atlanta Airport. Go on and flex, Andre. Go on and flex, man.
Well,
go ahead.
I'm just saying it wasn't easy to get there.
I mean, just say, hey, I'm the baddest dude out. Andre, let me do this. I'm gonna let you continue talking.
No. As I say, when I'm mentoring people, I want to know that when I mentor people, I'm not mentoring about things that I wish that would happen. It's things about I've done myself. And someone else said that earlier. You can't talk about things that you wish would happen. When I talk about things, I'm talking about things that I've done. So it's not a light issue with me. And I want people to vote. And I talk to a lot of people. Matter of fact, I got an issue coming up with the new mayor of Atlanta. And even though I didn't vote for him, I'm not necessarily in the county, but I have things to do. Okay, and
I got to bring up Katrina, and then we got to do the word cloud.
Yeah, bring up Katrina.
Let me do.
I'm gonna break in on occasion anyway. So go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you?
Now we're in the barbershop, Nora. This is good,
Katrina. Let's just say something, Katrina. How you doing?
And get your camera on, Katrina. And while she's getting up,
cracking up, I don't know.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. It was a good talk for tonight. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Bring the cloud up while she's talking.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I was trying to get myself together. I'm over here so busy cracking up at Andre. But this was a great conversation for tonight. When I think about voting, I just think about us being on the front lines, standing behind our chairs, sharing this information with our clients that don't understand the importance of voting. So I just say to all of our wellness warriors, keep.
She's breaking up a bit.
Breaking up a little bit,
but she got that key message in there.
But she say to the wellness warriors, keep on keeping on, right? That's what.
Hey, Reverend, don't they say for Jeremiah to stay on the wall, right? Don't get off the wall.
Watchman on the wall, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, you remember the first time we did the conference which says no research on us without us,
That's
Dr.
right.
T?
That's right.
Right. And that was what it was all about. Katrina,
look at this cloud.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. T, you see the first thing is community.
Wow.
Which is 2 words, common unity.
There we go.
Right. You got it. And so some people are tired. Hopeful is right there. Thankful, power, worn down, grateful, together, energized, motivated, understanding, honored, compassionate, compulsive, connected, committed, courageous,
boosted.
Ideal. I mean, just think about boosted and bold, right? Right. So we got so many things, but at the center of all this, which is what it's all about, Dr. T, it's about community. It's about seeing our common interests and our common cause and working towards common goals, so that we can be this more perfect union, because that's what we all aspire to be, is to create fairness and equity for everybody, an egalitarian society where people can be the true and perfect manifestation of God's intent for them. And that's
Mayor,
all we ask for everybody to do.
You got to get us out of here, Mayor.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right. All right, Katrina, you want to just finish up saying, I can't, Dr. T, I can't go nowhere without letting Katrina finish up.
There she is. Okay.
Right, okay, now go ahead, now Katrina. I'm gonna give you the last word.
Katrina.
Yeah, she got a bad connection.
Okay, somehow she got a bad connection.
Any of the Hollywood Squares, anything you saw in the cloud, Nora? You're new. Quickly, Nora.
Oh, I mean, I think, yeah, community says it all, right? We have to recognize that we're part of a community, and that's a big motivator for voting for me anyways.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Reverend Courtney Meadows. Thank you so much. In his absence, Representative Anthony Daniels, wonderful contribution to you, Nora. That's just so wonderful having you join us, and the great work that you're doing with your organization and your commitment to your advocacy is heartwarming. So thank you so much for what you do, both seen and unseen. And Dynamite President Mike.
Hey, Mike. Hey.
You know, man, I'm gonna be your campaign manager. So you know, but this is fabulous. Well, we'll be campaign manager, Sandra. Okay, but we thank you so much, man, for what you're doing and putting it where the cows can get it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Absolutely, Dr. Ritter, as always. You know, a sister from another mister.
She's hung in there with us.
Sandra Jenkins, as always, it's good to see you. Katrina, it's good to have you. Andre, good to have you. Meg, thank you for a powerful message, and Maggie behind the scenes, and all of our team behind the scenes. Thank you all so much.
Give me a call.
We are so very, very, very excited about where this show is going. It is an incredible opportunity for us to reach out and to talk about things that really matter. Voting matters, and regardless of what your circumstance is, there's some space where voting will have a place in your life, and you need to make the determination who will sit in those spaces. As always, thank you for joining with us on this segment of The Cutting Edge. As always, I'd like to leave you with these two words. Remember that I love you with a perfect love, but more importantly, remember, you got the power. Till next time you see us on The Cutting Edge, have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye. The pandemic.